Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So, today's video is diagnosis and journey. So, in my early teens, or somewhere in there, I started getting symptoms of hypoglycemia. Later on at work, I lost feeling in my finger, and they thought I had diabetes because I have an uncle with it. And so they sent me to get a glucose tolerance test to prove that it wasn't work, it was diabetes that caused me to lose feeling in my finger. And the work med doctors ended up concluding I had hypoglycemia, and even if it had been diabetes, they would have had a harder time proving it was because of that. So I also, when I had my kids, I threatened to miscarry and threatened preterm labor, but always delivered them pretty close to their due date. And one doctor said I just had an irritable uterus. About in my early to mid 30s, I ended up having a hysterectomy because of the way I was bleeding. And I say that it wasn't, if it was menstruating, it was like I'd go for 5 days, have a day or two off, and I'd be bleeding again. That's not normal. Then a couple years later, I started having pain in a joint here or there. And it couldn't really be explained. The joints would get hot, they'd start to swell, things like that. My doctor sent me to a rheumatologist who diagnosed me with psoriatic arthritis. He actually ended up seeing the psoriasis, and we started on medication, and he kept having to raise the dose, and it wasn't working. About, let's see, 3 years ago, well, about 3.5 years ago to 4 years ago, my son started having similar issues. And obviously, psoriatic arthritis is not something a primary care doctor can diagnose. That has to be diagnosed by a rheumatologist. So, my primary care doctor tried to refer us to my rheumatologist, and we found out he didn't take people until they were 18. So, we were sent down to Primary Children's. Primary Children's did a bunch of tests, and we don't know what it is. It seems to be arthritis, but not arthritis. There's some symptoms, but there's not. And we don't really know. And honestly, my son was a few months from turning 18, so I had also scheduled with my rheumatologist just to be sure, because I'd had problems with this child with Primary Children's before. Due to things that we now believe were EDS related. So we left with no answers, very frustrated, waited until he got in with my rheumatologist. My rheumatologist was with him like 5 minutes, and he said, "Have you ever heard of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but through a YouTube video that I don't really trust." He said, "Well, your son has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome." And I went, "What? Okay, wait a minute. Something's up here." And I did research. And I found out that, wait a minute. Now I understand more about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I went into my doctor for a follow-up a week later because I had that scheduled, and talked to him about what I'd found in my experiences. And he went, "You don't have psoriatic arthritis. You have EDS. And there's nothing I can do as a rheumatologist to help EDS because it's not immune response. It's the way things are developed." So that was the last time I saw the rheumatologist. but it helped my doctor. In fact, when my doctor found out, he said, I think I better go test some other patients of mine. And since then, I found a lot more people who have it, and we've actually treated, and I'm doing a lot better. My son's doing a lot better, and it's helped a lot of other people out. So thanks, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.